Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea and it is so nice getting to make this video seeing as we don't have any face-to-face contact in this course, so technology is very important, I guess you can say. So as some of you might have known from my introduction, I am a graduate of UNH and I minored in deaf and hard of hearing studies. So today I really wanted to focus my project on teaching deaf culture as well as a little bit of American Sign Language. So while I don't have students or a classroom or even you all here in front of me to physically execute this project, I would like to really just verbally describe what I would do. So believe it or not, a lot of people in this world know more sign language and know more about how to communicate with a deaf or hard of hearing person than they might realize. For instance, facial expressions are extremely important. Likewise with body language, and even simple signs can be known without fully realizing it. Sign language is a extremely visual, it's a visual language. Signs were developed based off of what is seen in the world. For instance, milk is very similar to milking a cow. Tree kind of looks like a tree, wouldn't you agree? Water is a W by your mouth because you're physically drinking the water usually. A wave is kind of, you're making a wave with your hands. And then there's some inappropriate signs that people have integrated into everyday life, which you can use your imagination for. And then there's a lot about deaf culture, which are, sometimes known courtesies, and then there are some things that a hearing person who hasn't been educated in deaf culture would not know. For instance, wearing a black t-shirt or something that is an easy contrast against your hands is something very polite to do in deaf culture so that it's easier to see what you're signing. Likewise, without wearing a ton of bracelets or a ton of rings, and then making sure that everything is well lit. I have a lamp on me now. So little things that can be done through demonstration to teach students, whether they be anywhere from infants or preschoolers to adults in higher education, can really just observe and learn through everyday interactions. So essentially, one of the first things that I would engage you all in, or my preschoolers or anything like that, would be a fun introduction to sign language. And that would be to design a story. And you would have to be able to portray that story without using your voice. So a lot of times people will like to try to use their voice, and it's so hard to contain yourself. Like, don't mouth the words, just use your hands, just use your body language and your facial expressions. Believe it or not, you can portray a lot more than you might think. So if you have the time, work with a child, work with your partner, work with a friend, and tell a story without any of those things. You might find that your eyebrows raise when you're surprised, and when you start to ask a question or you're confused, your eyebrows go down. Those are two very important things. Eyebrows, up, down, mean many different things in American Sign Language. You might also find that you are able to make signs. You do things with your hands to describe things. Are you talking about a platter and you're kind of like this? Well, guess what? This is the sign for serve. So, there are little things that you can do without fully realizing it. So that would be step number 1, is try to do that. And then number 2, I would then work with you to identify some of the signs that you have already done. Together, you would be collaborating with whomever you're working with. You would be able to use your facial expressions, and you would also be developing in some regard an identity within deaf culture. So being able to understand the culture as a whole is very important to understanding the language and being seen as a respectful member of the community, whether you're an ally, whether you are a child of parents who are deaf or hard of hearing, whether you just do it out of love. For me, it was a combination of many things, but that is a good step number 1. Step number 2, I would certainly introduce some fingerspelling. Fingerspelling is step number 1 to learning sign language. And for some students who are younger, finger paint can be amazing. For students who haven't really learned how to write the alphabet yet, physically, fingerspelling can be a challenge, especially the letter Z. So this is letter Z, and it consists of you physically making a Z with your finger. So finger paint can be a great way for students to see what they're doing in the air, and it's also a fun way for them to be able to actually make an imprint of their hands. So you can do that too. It gets a little messy, so use caution. And another way that you can do it, and is really fun, is making letters. So this is the letter L, out of Play-Doh or clay or silly putty. Well, silly putty tends to melt a little bit, but that is a great way to learn finger spelling. And then telephone with finger spelling is great because it also creates collaboration amongst a group. So ultimately, if you want to learn today, this is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H is two fingers, and then you have your thumb tucked behind like that. I, J is the I, but you hook it, J. K, so it's kind of like this. L, M, so it's three fingers, and then your thumb goes between your ring finger and your pinky finger. N, O, P, so P is a K but down. Q is a G but down. R is your fingers crossed. S is a fist. Make sure your fingers are tucked in and your thumb is on the front. T, U, V, W, X, Y, and then Z. So that is how you fingerspell the alphabet, and then you can combine it to make words. So my name is Chelsea. Alright, so that is a slight introduction to sign language and some of the projects I would do. I don't know if that's fully what was intended by this project, but I hope that someday we can implement this together. If anyone ever wants to meet up, if you're local to Durham or even Dover, I'd be more than happy to sit down and talk to you about deaf culture, American Sign Language. Maybe even, I know a lot of you are teachers, so if you ever want me to come in and teach some of your kids some sign language, it's really fun, and it is a fantastic way to teach students about culture that surrounds them, even when they don't know it. Deafness and hard of hearing is invisible. You can't tell if the person walking down the street is, using sign language or needs sign language to communicate, and it's not until a barrier is there and you need to problem solve, such as being able to tell your story without words and without mouthing, that you can communicate with that person. Technology has become a great tool for, for students and for deaf and hard of hearing individuals. Texting is great. Smartphones are even wonderful. So there's so many ways in which you can implement all of these things, and I hope that you learned just a little bit from this video, and I hope that this wasn't incredibly confusing. So thank you so much for watching and listening, and please feel free to comment if you have any questions or you want to learn more. Thanks. Bye.